Captain Yuna Kim stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the stars slip past through the viewing screen. Behind her, 3,000 colonists slept in cryogenic pods, dreaming of their new home. The journey had been peaceful so far. Earth had approved this colony 15 years after joining the Galactic Council, and everyone was excited about humanity's future among the stars. Yuna smiled as she checked the navigation systems. 2 more days, and they would reach the settlement world. She thought about the children on board, 800 of them. They would grow up on a new planet, under alien skies. It was beautiful to imagine. The alarm shattered her thoughts. "Captain, we have ships dropping out of slip space," her navigation officer called out. 6 vessels. They're big. Yuna's heart raced. "Identification? Velkari warships, Captain. Military class." Something felt wrong. The Velkari were part of the Galactic Council. They were supposed to be allies. "Open a channel. Let's find out what they want." The communications officer worked quickly. "Channel open, Captain. This is Captain Yuna Kim of the Earth vessel New Horizon. We are on an approved colonization route. How can we help you?" Silence answered her. "Send it again," Yuna ordered. Her hands gripped the armrests of her chair. The Velkari ships were moving closer, forming an attack pattern. "Captain, they're charging weapons." "What?" Yuna jumped to her feet. "That's impossible. We're a civilian ship. Send a distress signal to Earth immediately. Tell them—" The first shot hit their shields. The ship shook violently. People screamed in the lower decks. "Shields at 60%, someone shouted. "Return fire," Yuna commanded, though she knew it was useless. The New Horizon had basic defensive weapons, nothing that could hurt a Velkari warship. Another blast hit them. The lights flickered. Yuna grabbed the communications panel herself. "This is Captain Yuna Kim to any Velkari commander. We have 3,000 civilians on board, 800 children. Please explain why you're attacking us. We have done nothing wrong." Still no response. The Velkari ships continued firing methodically, like they were at target practice. "Shields failing," the tactical officer reported. His voice shook with fear. "Captain, we can't survive this." Yuna felt tears burning in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Keep sending the distress signal. Earth needs to know what happened here." A massive explosion rocked the ship. The hull was breaching. Yuna could hear the screams of her crew, of the colonists waking from their sleep only to die. "Tell Earth," Yuna said into the recorder, her final message. "Tell them the Velkari murdered us. Tell them to remember the New Horizon. Tell them—" The ship exploded into pieces. 3,000 lives ended in fire and void. Back on Earth, Ambassador Hyun Park received the distress signal in his apartment. He had been preparing for a routine council meeting. The message played, and he listened to Yuna's last words. His face went pale. He immediately contacted President Minho Choi. "Mr. President, we have a situation. The New Horizon has been destroyed by Velkari forces. All 3,000 colonists are dead." President Minho's face appeared on the screen. He looked like he had aged 10 years in an instant. "Are you certain?" "Yes, sir. We have the distress signal. Captain Kim reported unprovoked attack. The Velkari never even responded to her communications." Minho closed his eyes. 800 children were on that ship. "Yes, sir. Call an emergency council session. I want answers." 3 days later, Ambassador Hyun stood before the Galactic Council. The chamber was enormous, with representatives from 40 species seated in a circular arrangement. The Velkari representative, a tall creature with blue scales, looked bored. "I demand an explanation," Hyun said. His voice echoed through the chamber. "The Velkari Empire destroyed an Earth civilian vessel without warning or cause. 3,000 innocent people are dead." The Velkari representative finally spoke. "The human ship entered restricted military space. It was a navigation error. Unfortunate. But these things happen." "Unfortunate?" Hyun's voice rose. You murdered 3,000 people and call it unfortunate? We were on an approved route. Your own council approved it. The Thalian representative, another major power in the council, made a dismissive gesture. Ambassador Park, you must understand the realities of galactic politics. Space is vast. Mistakes occur. The Velkari have explained their position. Explained? They offered no warning, no communication. They simply opened fire on a defenseless ship. An older council member from a species called the Norath spoke calmly. Ambassador, Earth is still new to the galactic community. Perhaps this is a lesson about the importance of proper navigation protocols. Hyun couldn't believe what he was hearing. A lesson? You're calling the murder of 3,000 people a lesson? The Velkari representative smiled. We suggest Earth accept this unfortunate incident and move forward. The Council will not be investigating further. These matters are closed. The Council refuses to investigate? Hyun looked around the chamber. Most representatives wouldn't meet his eyes. A few smaller species looked sympathetic, but said nothing. The council speaker, a Thalian elder, spoke with finality. The matter is settled, Ambassador Park. Earth should consider this a reminder to follow proper procedures and to respect the territorial claims of established council members. Hyun stood silent for a moment. Then he gathered his documents. I will relay your decision to my government. He walked out of the chamber, his footsteps echoing. Behind him, he could hear the Velkari representative laughing with others. That evening, President Minho addressed the people of Earth. Every screen on the planet showed his face. He looked tired, but his eyes burned with something dangerous. My fellow humans, he began. Today, the Galactic Council refused to investigate the murder of 3,000 of our people. They called it an unfortunate incident. They suggested we accept it and move on. He paused, letting the words sink in. The Velkari Empire believes we are weak. They believe we will bow our heads and accept this injustice. The Galactic Council treats us like children who need to learn our place. His voice grew harder. They have made a fatal miscalculation. For 15 years, we have been peaceful members of this council. We have followed their rules, accepted their guidance, and tried to fit into their galactic order. We did this because we wanted peace. We did this because we believed in cooperation between species. Minho leaned forward, staring directly into the camera. But they have shown us that mercy is seen as weakness, that justice is only for the powerful, that our lives mean nothing to them. He stood up. So let me be clear to the Velkari Empire and to every member of the Galactic Council. Earth will have justice for the New Horizon. We will have justice for Captain Yuna Kim and her crew. We will have justice for the 800 children who died begging for their lives. His final words were spoken with quiet intensity. They wanted to teach us a lesson. They will learn one instead. This I promise you. The broadcast ended. Across Earth, people watched in silence. Then, slowly, they began to prepare for war. The day after President Minho's speech, every Earth ambassador left council space. They boarded their ships and returned home without explanation. Earth's embassy buildings stood empty. Communication channels went silent. The Galactic Council tried to contact Earth dozens of times. Every message went unanswered. It was like humanity had simply disappeared. In the council chambers, the Velkari representative laughed. The humans are sulking like children. They've run home to hide. The Thalian counselor agreed. Earth has shown its true nature. They cannot handle the harsh realities of galactic politics. Perhaps they are not ready for council membership after all. Smaller species said nothing, but some felt uneasy. Humans didn't seem like the type to simply give up. 6 months passed. The silence from Earth continued. Behind that silence, something was happening. General Daehyun Ko stood in a military command center deep beneath the surface of Earth. Around him, hundreds of officers worked at their stations. Every screen showed production numbers, ship designs, and weapon specifications. "Report," Dae-hyun ordered. An officer stood up. "Sir, all industrial facilities have been converted to military production. Every shipyard is working at maximum capacity. We're producing 3 new warships per day." "Not enough," Dae-hyun said. "I want 5 per day by next month." "Sir, that will require—" "I don't care what it requires." "Make it happen!" Dae-hyun moved to another station where Dr. Soo-min Han was working. She was Earth's top scientist, brilliant and focused. Right now she looked exhausted but excited. "Dr. Han, status of the Genesis project?" Soo-min looked up from her calculations. "General, it's ready. The prototype testing exceeded all expectations. One Genesis device can destroy an entire military installation without harming the surrounding area. The exotic matter reactions are precisely controlled." "And production?" "We can have 50 units ready within 2 months." Dae-hyun nodded. Before the New Horizon incident, the Genesis project had been locked away. Too dangerous, the politicians had said. Too terrible to use. Now, President Minho had given him access to everything. Across the facility, Commander Gina Bayek trained her pilots. She ran the Shadow Fleet Initiative, Earth's most classified military program. Her ships used stealth technology that made them invisible to conventional sensors. "Again!" Gina shouted at her pilots. "You're too slow! The Valkyrie won't wait for you to get into position." The simulation restarted. 50 small fighters executed a complex attack pattern, appearing from nowhere, striking, then vanishing before the enemy could respond. Gina watched with satisfaction. These pilots were good. They would be better. In another section, Intelligence Officer Taejin Ro analyzed everything Earth knew about Valkyrie military capabilities. He had spent months studying their tactics, their weapons, their formations. "They're arrogant," Taejin told his team. "The Valkyrie haven't fought a real war in 300 years. They've been bullying smaller species who can't fight back. They've forgotten what it's like to face a real enemy." "What about their shields?" someone asked. "Strong against energy weapons, but they've never encountered our railgun technology. We accelerate physical projectiles to incredible speeds using electromagnetic forces. Their shields won't know how to respond." Taejin pulled up more data. "Also, their ships are heavily automated. They rely on computer systems for everything. That's a weakness we can exploit." Every day, Earth grew stronger. Millions of people worked toward a single goal. Miners brought resources from the asteroid belt. Factories ran 24 hours a day. Scientists developed new weapons. Soldiers trained endlessly. President Minho visited the facilities often. He watched the warships taking shape in orbital shipyards. He spoke with soldiers preparing for battle. He reviewed plans with his generals. "Are we ready?" he asked General Dae-hyun one evening. "Soon, Mr. President. Another month." Minho nodded slowly. "The council thinks we've given up. They think we've accepted their decision." "Good. Let them think that." Meanwhile, in council space, the Valkyrie grew bolder. They began moving into territories that Earth had claimed. Human outposts were abandoned, and the Valkyrie simply took them over. "See," the Valkyrie representative told the council. "The humans have surrendered these claims. They know their place now." But Valkyrie intelligence officers were not so confident. Their sensors had detected unusual readings coming from Earth's solar system, massive energy signatures, strange quantum fluctuations, ship movements on an unprecedented scale. "What is it?" a Valkyrie admiral asked his intelligence chief. "Unknown, sir. Our sensors can't get clear readings. There's too much interference." "Could it be military activity?" The intelligence chief hesitated. "Possibly, sir. But the scale would be enormous. Far beyond what we thought Earth was capable of. It's probably just sensor errors. The humans are building some civilian projects, nothing more. The intelligence chief wasn't so sure, but he said nothing. Velkari admirals didn't like being contradicted. Back on Earth, Dr. Suman completed the final tests on the Genesis device. She stood in a secure testing facility, watching as the weapon powered up. "Initiating controlled reaction," she said calmly. The device activated. Space itself seemed to fold inward at a targeted point. The test target, a small moon in an uninhabited system, simply ceased to exist. Not exploded, not destroyed. It just stopped being there. "Perfect control," Suman reported. "No collateral damage beyond the designated target zone." General Dae-hyun watched from orbit. "How many of these can we deploy?" 75 are ready now. More are in production." Dae-hyun smiled grimly. "That will be more than enough." Commander Gina's Shadow Fleet completed its final exercises. 200 stealth ships, each crewed by humanity's best pilots. They could appear anywhere, strike with devastating precision, and disappear before the enemy knew what happened. "We're ready," Gina reported to Admiral Ji-won Lee, the Supreme Commander of Earth's Defense Fleet. Ji-won was older, experienced, and had fought in Earth's last major war decades ago. She understood what was coming. War was never glorious, never clean. But sometimes it was necessary. "How are the crews?" she asked Gina. "Angry, ma'am. They all knew someone on the New Horizon. They want justice. They'll get it, but remind them that we're not murderers like the Velkari. We strike military targets. We avoid civilian casualties. We're better than them." "Yes, ma'am." Intelligence Officer Taejin brought his final analysis to President Minho. "Sir, we've identified every Velkari military installation, every ship, every defensive position. We know their patrol routes, their communication protocols, and their command structure. Their weaknesses? Many, sir. They're overconfident. Their ships are powerful but slow. Their tactics are outdated. They've never faced an enemy that uses artificial intelligence in combat like we do." Minho studied the reports. "And their homeworld? Defended by 3 orbital platforms and a fleet of 200 warships. They believe it's impregnable." They're wrong. The final month passed quickly. Earth's fleet assembled in secret locations throughout the solar system. Thousands of warships, each equipped with weapons the galaxy had never seen. Railguns that could punch through any shield. Cyber warfare systems that could disable enemy ships in seconds. AI-controlled drone swarms that could overwhelm any defense. General Dae-hyun stood beside President Minho on the bridge of the flagship Unbreakable. "It's time," Minho said quietly. "Yes, sir." Orders went out across the fleet. Engines powered up, weapons armed. Crews took their positions. Admiral Ji-won addressed her forces. "Remember the New Horizon. Remember Captain Yoona Kim. Remember the 800 children. Today, we bring them justice. Today, we show the galaxy that humanity is not weak. Today, we show them the price of murdering our people." The fleet jumped into slipspace, heading toward Velkari territory. The silence was about to end, and the galaxy was about to learn a terrible lesson about underestimating Earth. Velkari Prime was a beautiful world. Blue oceans covered most of its surface, and its cities gleamed with advanced technology. The Velkari people felt safe here, protected by their powerful military. High Admiral Thexkar sat in his command center orbiting the planet. He was reviewing reports when his sensors officer suddenly stood up. "Sir, we have multiple contacts emerging from slipspace at the system's edge." "Identify them," Thexkar ordered, not particularly concerned. Probably just merchant ships. "Sir, they're warships. Hundreds of them. They're human." Thexkar laughed. "Human? Those cowards! They probably want to negotiate or beg for mercy. Open a channel." "Sir, they're not broadcasting. They're just advancing. And sir, our sensors show at least 500 ships." maybe more. The readings are difficult. 500 ships? That was impossible. Earth couldn't possibly have built that many warships in 6 months. Thexkar felt the first touch of worry. Then Admiral Ji-Won Lee's message came through on all frequencies. Her face appeared on every screen in the Velkari system. "For the New Horizon," she said simply. "For our children." "No mercy." The transmission ended. "Battle stations!" Thexkar shouted. "Launch all fighters! Get the fleet into defensive formation!" The Velkari fleet numbered about 600 warships, all powerful vessels with heavy shields and weapons. They had fought smaller species before, and always won easily. Their commanders were confident as they moved to intercept the human fleet. "They're outnumbered," one Velkari captain said. "This will be easy." It was not easy. The first surprise came when thousands of small objects appeared on Velkari sensors. They looked like missiles at first, but they were moving in coordinated patterns that seemed impossible. "Those are drones." Taijun's voice came through to Captain Seok Kwon, who commanded Earth's Vanguard Strike Force. "AI controlled. Each one is smart enough to make its own tactical decisions. The Velkari have never seen anything like this." The drone swarms hit the Velkari front line like a storm. They didn't just attack randomly. They identified weak points in shields, targeted vulnerable systems, and worked together with terrifying efficiency. When one drone was destroyed, others immediately adapted their tactics. "Shields holding," a Velkari captain reported. Then his ship shook violently. "What was that?" "Railgun fire, sir. Physical projectiles traveling at incredible speed." The railgun rounds punched through shields like they weren't there. Velkari shields were designed to stop energy weapons, lasers, and plasma. Nobody had used physical projectiles in warfare for centuries. It was considered primitive. It was also devastatingly effective. 3 Velkari cruisers exploded in the first 5 minutes. "Return fire," Thexkar ordered. "Target their command ships." But the Velkari couldn't get clear targeting locks. Lieutenant Commander Unji Nam, Earth's tactical operations officer, was running electronic warfare from the Unbreakable. She and her team sent out jamming signals, false sensor readings, and viral code that infected Velkari computer systems. "Their automated systems are turning against them," Unji reported. "Weapons are misfiring, shields are fluctuating, their own defense platforms are targeting friendly ships." "Excellent work," Admiral Ji-Won said. "Captain Seok, execute flanking maneuver Alpha." "Yes, ma'am." Captain Seok Kwon led 50 ships toward the system's asteroid belt. The Velkari had defensive sensors throughout the belt, but Commander Gina's shadow fleet had already dealt with those. Her stealth ships had silently eliminated the sensors hours before the battle began. Seok's force used the asteroids as cover, then emerged directly behind the Velkari fleet's main formation. At this range, the railguns were even more effective. Seok's ships opened fire in a coordinated volley. 20 Velkari warships exploded before they could even turn to face this new threat. "Sir, we're being attacked from behind," a Velkari officer shouted. "How did they get there?" Thexkar was no longer laughing. "All ships, break formation, attack patterns Delta through Gamma." But the Velkari were trained to fight weaker enemies, not equals. Their tactics were designed for overwhelming less advanced species. Against Earth's coordinated assault, disciplined crews, and superior technology, they were falling apart. The battle lasted 4 hours. To the Velkari, it felt like an eternity. Earth's forces moved like parts of a single organism. Ships coordinated their fire with split-second precision. When one ship was damaged, others immediately covered for it. The AI systems shared targeting data instantly across the entire fleet. Human commanders made rapid decisions while their computers handled the complex calculations. The Velkari fought bravely, but they were losing badly. Their 600 ships dwindled to 500, then 400, then 300. We need reinforcements! Thexkar sent desperate messages to Velkari military bases. Send everything! The humans are destroying us! But Earth had planned for that too. Commander Gina's shadow fleet appeared at the Velkari's military moon base just as reinforcements tried to launch. Dr. Suman's Genesis device was deployed. The device activated. Space folded in on itself at a precise point. The entire military moon base, with 300 warships inside it, simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there. The next moment, there was nothing. No explosion, no debris. Just empty space where a moon had been. Throughout the Velkari system, people watched in horror. They had never seen a weapon like this. They didn't even understand what they had just witnessed. The battle for Velkari Prime was effectively over. Less than 100 Velkari warships remained, scattered and disorganized. Earth had lost only 37 ships, and most of those had been damaged, not destroyed. Admiral Jiwan broadcast to Thexkar directly. Admiral, you have one choice. Surrender or die. Choose now. Thexkar looked around his command center. It was filled with smoke and sparks from damaged systems. Half his staff was dead or wounded. He had lost over 500 ships and thousands of crew members. The human fleet surrounded his planet, and he had no way to stop them. We surrender, he said quietly. All Velkari ships will power down weapons and lower shields immediately. Any ship that does not comply will be destroyed. Your flagship will be boarded. You will come with us. Within minutes, human marines transported onto Thexkar's flagship. They moved with military precision, securing the ship room by room. The Velkari crew offered no resistance. Thexkar was brought to the bridge of the Unbreakable in restraints. Admiral Jiwan looked at him with cold eyes. Where are the officers who gave the order to destroy the New Horizon? She asked. Thexkar said nothing at first. Then one of the human marines showed him a holographic display. It showed Earth's warships positioning orbital weapons platforms around Velkari Prime. We can destroy your military facilities from orbit, Jiwan said. Or we can destroy your cities. Or we can use another Genesis device and make your entire planet disappear. You have murdered our civilians. Give us a reason not to return the favor. Thexkar felt fear like he had never known. These humans were not bluffing. They had the power to end his entire species. And he could see in Jiwan's eyes that she was willing to do it. The order came from Supreme Commander Vexillar. He's on the planet's surface, at the primary military headquarters. Good. You're going to broadcast a message to your planet. You're going to order complete and immediate surrender. All military forces will stand down. All weapons will be deactivated. Your government officials will assemble at the Capitol building and wait for our instructions. And if I refuse? Jiwan gestured to the holographic display. It showed one of Earth's warships charging its weapons, aimed at a Velkari city. Then I start destroying your cities 1 per hour until someone cooperates. Thexkar knew she meant it. He had underestimated these humans terribly. They had seemed so peaceful, so weak, but they were neither. I'll do it, he said. The surrender message broadcast across Velkari Prime. High Admiral Thexkar, the hero of a dozen campaigns, the pride of the Velkari military, told his people to surrender unconditionally to the humans. On the planet's surface, Supreme Commander Vexillar tried to organize resistance, but his ships were destroyed, his moon base was gone, and his own admiral had surrendered. Within hours, Velkari soldiers were laying down their weapons. Earth's Marines landed in the capital city. They moved quickly to secure government buildings and arrest military leaders. The Velkari people watched in shock as their conquerors marched through their streets. But something strange happened. The humans didn't attack civilians. They didn't loot or destroy property. They set up medical stations to help wounded Velkari soldiers. They distributed food and water to areas disrupted by the battle. Why are they helping us? A Velkari civilian asked a human Marine. The Marine looked at her with tired eyes. Because we're not monsters. We came for justice, not revenge. Your military murdered our people. Your government refused to hold them accountable. So we did what we had to do. But we won't punish innocent civilians for their leaders' crimes. President Minho broadcast from the Unbreakable to Velkari Prime. His message was simple and direct. People of Velkari Prime, your military attacked and destroyed an Earth civilian vessel without provocation or warning. 3,000 innocent people, including 800 children, were murdered. When we sought justice through the Galactic Council, we were dismissed and mocked. So we have taken justice ourselves. Your military is defeated. Your leaders will stand trial. But we are not here to conquer you. We are here to ensure this never happens again. Cooperate with us, and you will be treated fairly. Resist, and you will share the fate of your military. The choice is yours. Across Velkari Prime, the people made their choice. They cooperated. Within 18 hours of the battle's end, the Velkari government formally surrendered. Earth's terms were harsh but not cruel. Complete military disarmament, war reparations, surrender of all officials involved in the New Horizon incident, public admission of guilt and apology. The Velkari had no choice but to accept. Admiral Jiwan stood on the bridge of the Unbreakable, looking at the planet below. She felt no joy in this victory. Good people on both sides had died today, but justice had been served. Send a message to Earth, she ordered. Mission accomplished. Velkari Prime has surrendered. Proceeding to Phase 2. Phase 2 was sending a message to the rest of the galaxy. Earth was not to be trifled with anymore. News of Velkari Prime's defeat spread through the galaxy like fire. Within hours, every council species knew what had happened. The reactions were mixed, but mostly they were shocked. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session. The massive chamber buzzed with dozens of languages as representatives argued and shouted at each other. This is an outrage, the Thalian counselor declared. Earth has committed an act of illegal warfare. They must be sanctioned immediately. Illegal? A small species called the Korath spoke up. The Velkari murdered 3,000 humans without provocation. Was that legal? That was an accident, the Thalian insisted. An accident that destroyed a whole ship? That killed 800 children? Some accident? The council speaker tried to restore order. Please, everyone, we must discuss this calmly. But there was no calm discussion. Smaller species were quietly pleased that someone had finally stood up to the major powers. The larger species felt threatened that their dominance was being challenged. We demand Earth cease all military operations immediately, the Velkari representative said. He had replaced the previous one, who had been arrested on Velkari Prime. They must withdraw their forces from our territory. Ambassador Hyun Park entered the chamber at that moment. He wasn't alone. 20 human Marines in full combat armor followed him. Their weapons were powered down but clearly visible. The chamber went silent. Hyun walked to the center of the floor. Behind him, holographic displays activated, showing footage from the Battle of Velkari Prime. Every counselor could see the destroyed Velkari fleet, the surrendered planet, and the Genesis device eliminating the military moon base. You wanted to know Earth's response to the murder of our people, Hyun said quietly. Now you know. The Thalian counselor stood up angrily. This is unacceptable. You cannot bring weapons into this chamber. Why not? Hyun asked. You brought weapons when you destroyed the New Horizon. Or do rules only apply to humans? We did not destroy your ship. No, but you defended those who did. You dismissed 3,000 murders as an unfortunate incident. You told us to accept it and move on. Well, we did move on. We moved on to Velkari Prime. Hyun activated more displays. These showed Earth's current military capabilities, the size of the fleet, the Genesis weapons, the stealth technology, the AI warfare systems. It was a demonstration of power that made several counselors visibly uncomfortable. Earth now possesses the most advanced military in council space, Hyun continued. We can strike any planet, any installation, any fleet. We can do it without warning, and you cannot stop us. The Velkari learned this lesson. Does anyone else need to learn it? The chamber erupted in angry voices. The major powers were furious. The smaller species were fascinated. Some looked frightened. Others looked hopeful. Councillor Prethnor of the Thalian Confederacy demanded recognition. Ambassador Park, this is blackmail. You cannot threaten the entire council. I'm not threatening anyone, Hyun said calmly. I'm stating facts. The Velkari murdered our people and faced consequences. If anyone else attacks Earth or its citizens, they will face the same consequences. That's not a threat. It's a promise. The council cannot allow this, Prethnor insisted. Earth must be brought under control. Then come try, Hyun said softly. Send your fleets to Earth. See what happens. The Thalian councilor's scales flushed with anger. You dare challenge the Confederacy? I dare defend my people, something you seem to have forgotten how to do. As the council argued, Strike Commander Yujin Shin was conducting operations in Velkari territory. His orders were to hit 3 remaining Velkari military outposts that had not yet surrendered. Yujin's force consisted of 30 warships and 100 stealth fighters. They arrived at the first outpost without warning. This is Commander Yujin Shin of the Earth Defense Force. You have 5 minutes to surrender and evacuate. After that, we will destroy this installation. The Velkari commander at the outpost was stubborn. We do not surrender to humans. We will fight. Your choice, Yujin said. 4 minutes later, the outpost tried to fight. It lasted 90 seconds. Earth's ships eliminated its weapons, destroyed its shields, and left it helpless. Then they did something unexpected. All personnel, evacuate now, Yujin broadcast. We're giving you 10 minutes to get to escape pods. We have no desire to kill you, but this installation will be destroyed. The Velkari commander was confused, but his crew was not. They ran for the escape pods. In 8 minutes, the entire station was evacuated. Yujin watched the pods drift to safe distance, then ordered the outpost destroyed. The same thing happened at the next 2 installations. Yujin gave warnings, allowed evacuation, then destroyed the empty facilities. Sir, why are we letting them go? One of his officers asked. Because we're not murderers, Yujin replied. We destroy military targets, not people. That's what separates us from the Velkari. Word of this spread through Velkari space. Earth was ruthless to military targets but merciful to individuals. It was not what anyone expected from a species seeking revenge. Back at the council, Captain Rena Song was monitoring communications from the Thalian Confederacy. Rena commanded what used to be a diplomatic cruiser but was now equipped with advanced sensors and weapons. Ambassador Park, she sent a coded message. You need to see this. The intercepted Thalian communications revealed a secret plan. The Confederacy had been preparing to join the Velkari in attacking human colonies. They wanted to take Earth's resources and territories before other species could claim them. They were planning to kill us all along, Rena reported. The Velkari attack was supposed to be the first step. The Thalian were going to follow up with their own attacks, making it look like we were a threat to galactic peace. President Minho, monitoring from Earth, made a decision. Send that information to all council species, every single one. Let them see what the major powers were planning. The information bomb hit the council like a physical explosion. Smaller species who had been quietly supporting the Thalian suddenly turned against them. The Confederacy's representatives tried to deny it, but the evidence was clear and undeniable. You were going to murder us, Hyun said to Councillor Prethnor. All of us, every human colony, every ship. You were planning genocide. Prethnor tried to speak, but other counselors were shouting at him now. Species who had been victims of Thalion aggression before saw their chance. The Korath representative stepped forward. "For 200 years, the Thalion have bullied us. They take our resources, destroy our ships, and the Council does nothing. Maybe Earth is right. Maybe the major powers only understand force." A dozen other small species echoed this sentiment. The Council was fracturing before everyone's eyes. President Minho made his next broadcast from Earth. This one went to every species in Council space. "People of the galaxy," he began, "Earth did not want war. We sought only justice for our murdered citizens. But we have learned something important. The Galactic Council, as currently structured, cannot provide justice. It serves only the major powers. Small species are ignored. The weak are exploited." He paused. "Earth proposes a new system. We call it the Galactic Assembly. Every species gets an equal voice and equal vote. Decisions are made by majority, not by the powerful few. Military aggression between member species is prohibited and will be met with force from all other members." Minho held up a data chip. "This chip contains complete specifications for Earth's Aegis network. It's a defensive system that can protect any planet from invasion. We offer this technology freely to any species that joins the new assembly. We will help you protect yourselves." The offer was revolutionary. Species that had been defenseless for centuries could suddenly defend their homeworlds. But there was a condition. "The Aegis network requires cooperation," Minho continued. "If you use it to attack others, it shuts down. If you refuse to help defend other member species when they're attacked, it shuts down. Peace is not passive. It requires all of us to actively defend it." 2 small species immediately contacted Earth requesting to join, then 5 more, then 10. The major powers watched their influence crumbling. The Thalion Confederacy made a desperate move. They mobilized their fleet, intending to intimidate Earth into backing down. 200 Thalion warships assembled near human space. Admiral Jiwan watched from the Unbreakable. "Captain Rena, what's their formation?" "Standard Thalion battle array, ma'am. They're trying to look threatening." "They succeeded at looking, not at being. Deploy countermeasures." Commander Gina's shadow fleet appeared around the Thalion formation. They had been there the whole time, invisible. Now they revealed themselves, surrounding the Thalion ships completely. "Thalion fleet," Jiwan broadcast. "You are surrounded by superior forces. You cannot win this fight. You have 2 choices. Withdraw peacefully or join the Velkari in defeat." The Thalion admiral looked at his sensors. He was surrounded by stealth ships that could destroy his fleet before he could react. His intelligence had been wrong. Earth's military was even more powerful than reported. "We will withdraw," he said quietly. "Good decision," Jiwan replied. The Thalion fleet retreated. Their bluff had been called and everyone had seen it. Within the Thalion Confederacy, something unexpected happened. The client species they had dominated for centuries began rebelling. They demanded the same representation and rights that Earth was offering. When the Thalion government refused, 3 of their subject species declared independence and immediately joined Earth's proposed assembly. Counselor Prethnor contacted President Minho privately. "What do you want? What will it take for Earth to back down?" "Back down?" Minho asked. "We're not backing down. We're moving forward. Join the new assembly on equal terms or become irrelevant. Your choice. You cannot reshape galactic politics in a few weeks. Watch us." By the end of the month, 43 species had agreed to join the Galactic Assembly. They came from all over Council space. Most were small species tired of being exploited, but a few were larger species who saw the value in a more fair system. The old Galactic Council still existed, but it was dying. Major powers like the Velkari and Thalion technically still had their seats, but fewer and fewer species were listening to them. Ambassador Hyun stood before the crumbling council one last time. Earth gave you a chance to do the right thing. You refused. So we did it ourselves. The galaxy is changing whether you like it or not. You can join us in building something better, or you can fade into history. We don't care which you choose." He turned and walked out. The human Marines followed him. Behind them, the council chamber descended into chaos as species argued about what to do next. The old order was dying. A new one was being born. And Earth stood at its center, armed with the weapons to enforce peace and the will to use them. 3 months after the Battle of Velkari Prime, Admiral Jiwan Lee stood on the bridge of the Unbreakable, watching Velkari Prime through the viewing screen. Earth's fleet still maintained position around the planet, but things had changed. Human ships now shared space with Velkari medical vessels. Earth's engineers worked alongside Velkari technicians to repair the damage from the battle. Food and medical supplies flowed freely from Earth's carriers to the planet's surface. "Admiral, we have another convoy arriving," her communications officer reported. "Earth's 3rd humanitarian fleet. They're carrying construction materials and farming equipment." Jiwan nodded. "Clear them for approach. Have them coordinate with the Velkari distribution centers." A Velkari officer on her bridge, one of several now working with the humans, looked surprised. "You give us weapons to destroy you, then you send food to feed us. I do not understand Earth." "We destroyed your military because you murdered our people," Jiwan explained. "But we don't want your civilians to suffer. The Velkari people didn't order the attack on the New Horizon. Your leaders did. There's a difference." On the planet's surface, Velkari children received vaccinations from human doctors. Farmers learned new techniques from Earth's agricultural experts. Cities slowly rebuilt with help from both species. It was not perfect. Many Velkari still hated humans. Many humans still wanted revenge, but both sides were trying to move forward. The trial of Supreme Commander Vexillar and his officers had become the most watched event in galactic history. It took place on a neutral station that Earth had constructed specifically for this purpose. The judges came from 7 different species, including 2 Velkari judges who had opposed their military's actions. Prosecutors presented evidence of the attack on the New Horizon. They showed recordings of Captain Yuna's desperate pleas. They presented testimony from Velkari officers who had followed illegal orders. Vexillar tried to defend his actions. "The humans were encroaching on our territory. They needed to be taught a lesson." The lead prosecutor, a human lawyer named Hyun Park, yes, Ambassador Hyun's brother, destroyed that argument. The New Horizon was on an approved route. The Galactic Council itself authorized that colony. You murdered 3,000 civilians because you saw an opportunity to intimidate a species you considered weak. You committed genocide for political advantage. The trial lasted 6 weeks. When it ended, Vexillar and 17 other Velkari officers were found guilty of war crimes. Their sentences were harsh but fair. They would spend the rest of their lives in prison, helping to rebuild what they had destroyed. More importantly, the trial set a precedent. Military officers could be held accountable for attacking civilians, regardless of their species or power. The galaxy watched and took note. While the trial proceeded, President Minho arrived at the Galactic Council station. He came aboard the Unbreakable, humanity's most powerful warship. Escorted by a full battle group, it was a statement of power, but also a guarantee of safety. The council chamber had changed. Many seats were empty now. Species that had joined Earth's proposed assembly no longer attended council sessions. The major powers still came, but they seemed diminished somehow. Minho walked to the center of the chamber. He carried no weapons, but everyone knew what forces he commanded. The holographic display behind him showed not weapons this time, but plans, blueprints, proposals. "Members of the Galactic Council," he began. "I come with a proposal. The old system is broken. We all know it. The strong dominate. The weak suffer. Justice is a word without meaning. He activated the display. It showed a new structure, a parliament where every species had representatives based on population. A security council where decisions required majority vote, not just agreement from major powers. Courts where any species could seek justice. Enforcement mechanisms that applied to everyone equally. This is the Galactic Assembly Charter, Minho continued. 43 species have already agreed to join. We invite the rest of you to join as well. The Velkari representative, carefully chosen for his moderate views, stood up. What guarantees do we have? How do we know Earth won't use this new system to dominate us? You have the same guarantee everyone has, Minho replied. Earth's military power is real, but we've built something more important. We've built the Aegis network. Dr. Suman Han appeared via hologram to explain the technology. The Aegis network is a defensive system that protects planets from invasion. But it requires cooperation to function. Each planet that installs it becomes a node in the network. Attack any member species, and the entire network responds. She showed simulations of how it worked. If one planet was attacked, every other planet's defensive systems would activate simultaneously. The attacker would face not just their intended victim, but the combined defense of potentially hundreds of worlds. This technology ensures mutual defense, Suman continued. It makes aggression between member species tactically impossible. Peace becomes the only logical choice. Councillor Prethnor of the Thalian Confederacy objected. This gives smaller species too much power. The natural order is that stronger species lead. A representative from the Korath species, small in stature but fierce in spirit, responded. The natural order you describe has led to 200 years of exploitation. We've watched our people suffer while the Council did nothing. Earth offers us something different. We're taking it. More small species voiced agreement. The tide had clearly turned. Minho made his final offer. The Galactic Assembly will convene in 1 month at a new location. We're calling it Unity Station. It's being built at the site where the New Horizon was destroyed. That tragedy will become the foundation for something better. He looked directly at the major power representatives. You can join us as equals, contributing your knowledge and resources to the common good. Or you can remain outside, clinging to the old ways while the galaxy moves forward without you. But understand this. The Galactic Assembly will have Earth's full military protection. Attack any member species, and you attack us all. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some species were excited. Others were angry. But everyone understood that the galaxy was changing, and they had to choose which side of history they wanted to be on. Over the following weeks, more species joined the assembly. Even some client states of the major powers broke away and joined independently. The Thalian Confederacy tried to stop them, but found their military threats were now empty. Earth's Shadow Fleet monitored their every move, ready to intervene. Finally, the Velkari formally applied to join the assembly. Their new government, elected after the old one fell, wanted to rebuild their reputation. They admitted their past crimes publicly and asked for a chance to make amends. The assembly vote was close, but they were accepted. Many human representatives voted against it, still angry about the New Horizon, but President Minho cast the deciding vote in favor. Justice doesn't mean eternal punishment, he said. The guilty officers were tried and convicted. The Velkari people are cooperating with investigations and paying reparations. If we want a galaxy based on law and fairness, we have to practice what we preach. It was a controversial decision, but it set the tone for the assembly. Forgiveness was possible, but only after accountability. Unity Station was completed 6 months after the Battle of Velkari Prime. It was massive, large enough to house representatives from hundreds of species. At its center was a memorial chamber dedicated to the victims of the New Horizon. Captain Yuna Kim's name was inscribed in letters 10 feet tall, along with all 3,000 colonists who had died. The memorial included personal items recovered from the wreckage, preserved behind protective glass, a child's toy, a letter to a loved one, a wedding ring. The first assembly session opened with a moment of silence in that chamber. Representatives from 97 species stood together, remembering the tragedy that had sparked this change. Admiral Jiwan stood beside President Minho, looking at Yuna's name on the wall. "She wanted to build a new home for humanity among the stars," Jiwan said quietly. "Instead, her death built something bigger." "She would have preferred to live," Minho replied. "They all would have." "Yes, but at least their deaths meant something." The Assembly's first act was to ratify the Mutual Defense Treaty. The second was to establish the Galactic Court System. The third was to begin distributing the Aegis Network to all member species. Dr. Sumin and her team traveled from world to world, installing the defensive systems and training local technicians. Each installation was celebrated. Species that had been defenseless for centuries now had the ability to protect themselves. But the Aegis Network came with responsibility. Each member species agreed to come to the aid of others if attacked. It was not just a defensive pact. It was a statement that the galaxy's people would stand together. Former Ambassador Hyun Park, now Secretary of Interspecies Relations, worked tirelessly to resolve disputes before they became conflicts. He established mediation services, trade agreements, and cultural exchange programs. The goal was to make species so interconnected that war became unthinkable. It didn't always work. There were still tensions, still disagreements, still hatred between old enemies. But now there were mechanisms to resolve these issues peacefully, and behind all of it stood Earth's military, ready to enforce the peace if necessary. The Thalian Confederacy eventually joined the Assembly after their government collapsed from internal pressures. Their entry was conditional. They had to grant independence to their client species and make reparations for past exploitation. It was humiliating for a once mighty power, but they had no real choice. A year after the New Horizon was destroyed, President Minho stood at Unity Station and addressed the Assembly. Representatives from 123 species were present now. The old Galactic Council had officially dissolved the week before. "We have built something unprecedented," Minho said. "A galactic community where the strong protect the weak instead of exploiting them, where justice applies to everyone equally, where peace is not just an ideal but an enforced reality." He paused, looking at the assembled representatives. Earth did not want to be warriors. We wanted to be explorers, scientists, and diplomats. The destruction of the New Horizon forced us to become something else. We became what the galaxy needed, even though it cost us dearly. On the viewing screen behind him, images played. Human soldiers training with Velkari troops, mixed-species engineering teams building new stations. Children from a dozen species playing together at an assembly school. Scientists from 40 species collaborating on research projects. "But we refuse to be defined only by our military power," Minho continued. "Earth offers more than weapons. We offer knowledge, technology, culture, and friendship. We want to build, not destroy. We want to explore, not conquer." He gestured to the memorial chamber, visible through a transparent wall. "We remember the New Horizon. We remember Captain Yuna Kim and the 3,000 souls who died with her. But we also remember why they were making that journey. They wanted to build something new, a better future for humanity and for all species." His voice grew stronger. "That's what this assembly represents. That's what we're building together. The New Horizon may have been destroyed, but its mission succeeded. We're creating new homes, new partnerships, and new hope, not just for humans, but for everyone." The assembly chamber erupted in applause, not just from human representatives, but from species across the galaxy. Admiral Jiwan watched from the Unbreakable, now permanently stationed as Unity Station's guardian. She thought about the battle, about the ships she'd destroyed, and the lives she'd taken. It weighed on her, as it should. But she also saw what had come from that terrible day. The galaxy was better now, safer, more just. The price had been high, but perhaps it had been worth it. Commander Gina visited the memorial chamber every week. She would stand before Yuna's name and speak quietly, as if her old friend could hear. "We did it, Captain. We made them pay. But more than that, we made them change. You'd be proud." Dr. Sumin continued her work, now focused on humanitarian technology instead of weapons. She led a research team developing medical advances, environmental restoration systems, and technologies to help struggling colonies. "I created weapons of mass destruction," she told her students. "Now I create tools for mass construction. It's a better use of my skills." Intelligence Officer Taejun, who had planned the Battle of Velkari Prime with such precision, now ran the Assembly's early warning system. His job was to detect conflicts before they started and alert mediators. "I learned to make war," he said. "Now I'm learning to prevent it." Years passed. Unity Station grew. The Assembly expanded to include nearly every species in known space. There were still problems, still conflicts, still times when Earth's military had to enforce the peace. But these became rarer as the new system proved itself. A new generation grew up never knowing the old council's corruption. They lived in a galaxy where different species worked together as equals, where justice meant something, and where military strength existed to protect, not oppress. On the 10th anniversary of the New Horizon disaster, President Minho, now much older but still serving, stood once again at the memorial. He placed a white flower at the base of Captain Yuna's name, just as he did every year. "We remember," he said softly, "and we make sure the galaxy never forgets what happens when the powerful forget justice. Never again will civilians be murdered without consequence. Never again will the weak be ignored. That's our promise to you and to everyone who died with you." He turned and walked through Unity Station. Everywhere he looked, he saw species working together, living together, building together. The galaxy had changed. Earth had changed it through force when necessary, but sustained it through cooperation. They had been underestimated. They had been dismissed. They had been told to accept injustice. Instead, they had rewritten the rules of galactic civilization. Earth's brutal retaliation had indeed left the Galactic Council speechless. But more importantly, it had given the galaxy a new voice. A voice that spoke for everyone, strong and weak alike. A voice that demanded justice, maintained peace, and offered hope. The New Horizons crew had set out to build a new home for humanity. In their death, they had helped build a new home for everyone. And across the galaxy, in 100 languages and 1,000 voices, people remembered them and gave thanks for the change their sacrifice had brought.